We were having a conversation about Dak Prescott and obviously the incredible season that Jalen Hurts is having. I tend to believe for myself right now, I don't necessarily trust Jalen Hurts. I feel much better about Dak Prescott. And we were having that conversation last segment about Dak and the rest of this year for him.
Something occurred to me last night that we've watched Dak a lot this year with some interceptions, right? That you're like, man, overly aggressive.
Some trust throws that haven't been trusting very well.
What have we talked about with Dak for the last few years? That he'd have to see guys open to throw the ball, right? He didn't throw guys open. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that, see, he's doing it now. I mean, he's doing it. Is he doing it very well? You know, it's a little shaky. I think at times that we have seen him make some throws that it was a trust in the wide receiver making the right read. But, and this goes into part of what I really think that, you know, is a great part about Odell Beckham Jr.
Sure.
Is how when you trust a wide receiver to go get the football, that's not really what CD does, right? CD's not a guy that, you know, comes back after the, you know, like he's running a route. He runs the route, right? He runs it well, and then he'll wait for the ball to come to him, and sometimes, you know, an aggressive defensive back will come in and make a play or make an interception. And it just kind of hit me. I texted Brian that, and I was like, you know, we talked about that for a few years now, that Dak doesn't do that. I go, he is doing that now.
Well, it's interesting you said it because, you know, that you brought that up because Reggie and I last week, we were kind of talking about some of that very idea, and you were seeing some of the evidence in the first half interceptions that Dak Prescott was throwing. We saw that against the Giants and the Bears, and obviously what he did against the Packers throwing the interception to, Rudy Ford, who got that second interception, for himself in that game. And if we're going to ask Dak Prescott,
doing all these in the first half, by the way.
Exactly. But if we're going to ask Dak Prescott to be one of those upper echelon quarterbacks, and some of the traits that we see exhibited by the Mahomeses, the Allens, whomever you want to name in that top 10, that top echelon or whatever, Dak Prescott, you want him to start making those aggressive type of throws. And sometimes you will pay for it, just like you pay for it with Josh Allen in terms of some of the interceptions, Mahomes, some of the interceptions at times. But we laud those quarterbacks for the aggressiveness that they throw the football with. And if we're going to ask Dak Prescott to be that type of quarterback with the salary, quote unquote, that he is making, then we have to live with some of those interceptions at times. Because
he's only got 5, right?
I'd have to go back and check to see the exact number. But the point is, he's going to make these throws, and he talked about some of the
7.
trust. Yeah, he's got 7. So, some of the trust throws that he's making, you're going to have interceptions at times. But as long as he's making good decisions and exhibiting, for the most part, the good decision-making that we've come to know him to have throughout the course of his career for the most part, then I'm okay with some of the aggressive trust throws that he makes, as long as they don't obviously come at the wrong time for this football team.
It's better than him being tentative.
Sure.
And then making a throw, just trying to make a play, and then that turning into an interception.
Yeah.
You'd much rather have the prior than the latter.
And you have to be judicious when you're making those decisions, because as you play better and better teams down the stretch at the end of the playoffs, turnovers at any point in a ball game could cost you, especially knowing how the margin of error is extremely thin as you get into the playoffs. But obviously, it's something to watch for. And that's why, for me right now, I don't trust Jalen Hurts, because that margin of error is so thin. I haven't seen him in those situations be able to make those throws. And obviously, once about the playoff appearance that he had, obviously, they lost, so.
He made some throws yesterday.
Once about in my
A.J. Brown was completely covered.
Yeah.
And he made a hell of a throw. Better catch, but hell of a throw, too.
Yeah, and more so when we get to those playoff situations that we think that they're going to see down the stretch. This comes from Adam Shine of NFL.com. 9 takes that won't change in the NFL stretch run, including this one around the NFC East. Number 1, he has Buffalo is still the team to beat in the AFC. Would you agree with Adam in that particular case?
Yeah, because they're the number 1 seed. That's it. Right? As it stands right now, they are the number 1 seed in the AFC. So, yes.
I'm going to have to disagree with him.
Wait a minute. Okay, but wait, hold on. All right, so this is a take that won't change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and give yours. I'm going to take a look at something real quick before I give anything definitive because I got to check something.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with him on that. I think Kansas City is still the team to beat in the AFC. Obviously, we've seen some of the injuries that the Buffalo Bills are dealing with. Obviously, Von Miller going on IR. They've been dealing with significant injuries all year. Jordan Poyer's been in and out of the lineup. Tre'Davious White is now back for them, at the cornerback spot. But to me, Kansas City is still the team to beat, even with their loss on the road to Cincinnati yesterday.
I'm going to agree with you. What I needed to check, Kansas City's schedule the rest of the way. Next 2 games are on the road. Thankfully, they're in Denver and in Houston.
Okay. Dubs.
Seahawks at home.
Dub.
Broncos at home.
Dub.
At Vegas. And at this point, it might not even matter, right? Because I agree. 1, 2, 3, that's probably 4 wins. So if you win 4 in a row, Buffalo has the Jets and the Dolphins, both at home.
Okay.
But, they'll be favored in that, but certainly tougher. In Chicago, in Cincinnati.
Ooh.
And then finish with the Patriots.
Okay.
The Bengals the rest of the way. Browns. All right, that should be a W. At Tampa should be a W.
I'm not so sure.
Look, here's what I say. I know the Browns beat the crap out of them. Like, how many times has Monday Night Football been in Cleveland over the last 20 years?
Not a lot.
I just knew there was something. I was talking because we were at the game, the Bengals-Bears game, and I'm sitting next to Matt Engel, and I said, there is something about this game tomorrow night that I think they're going to be ready to play. It's big time for them.
And Cleveland took it to them.
Yeah.
That was with Jacoby Brissett, though.
But then they're playing at home. You would assume split. So let's, for all intents, let's just say that's a win. At Tampa Bay, win. At New England, win. Buffalo at home, let's just say for argument's sake that's a loss. And then versus the Ravens. You like Kansas City's road better.
Definitely.
Right. I mean, that's just it. So that's where I would agree with you.
Number 2 for Adam Shine, the NFC race goes through Philadelphia.
Yeah. Because Philadelphia, their rest of the road, Giants twice, Bears, Saints, and the Cowboys.
Yeah, they got a hella soft schedule.
That is.
For the rest of the way.
I mean, that's pretty. That looks 4-1 to me.
It looks like they are on their way to the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Now, to be fair, Minnesota, probably they have an easier road. Detroit, Indy, Giants, Packers, and the Bears. But they would have to go undefeated, win all 5, and then Philly would have to lose to Dallas. What do they have a head-to-head?
So Philly, you're talking about with Minnesota or with Philly?
Yeah, because that would put them tied.
Yeah, so they would obviously need to finish ahead of Minnesota record-wise, and they would hold the tiebreaker. Or if they finish tied with Minnesota with the same record, they would have the head-to-head over them having.
Yeah, they do. Right. So still, even in that scenario, it's going through Philly.
Number 3 is where it gets interesting from Shine, though. He says, but the Cowboys can beat the Eagles. And that's obviously where I do tend to agree with him. While, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are probably going to have the best record in the NFC, I would still be very comfortable with the idea of a healthy Dak Prescott and the Cowboys going on the road to possibly beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, you remember the game that they had already on the road in Philadelphia where they got within 3 with Cooper Rush.
Absolutely.
So the Eagles, as talented as they are, and I think they have the overall more talented roster than the Cowboys. Cowboys are right there with them as far as the NFC is concerned. And in my mind, as I mentioned last segment, I think they are the best team in the NFC. Number 4 from Shine, the 49ers boast the NFL's best defense. Yeah, that's true. That defense for San Francisco is
because
monstrous.
when you, I still believe that the Cowboys have the best defensive player, not by a very large margin, right? Nick Bosa now has the lead in sacks.
14.5 sacks.
But I would take Micah.
Sure.
I'd take either of them. But if I had to choose between the two, I would take Micah. But Fred Warner might be the best linebacker. You know what I mean? And then what you've got in the secondary, where now you're having to rely on a rookie in Deron Bland, who looks good. Now you're bringing in Kelvin Joseph, too, because no Jordan Lewis.
That's a wild card there.
No Anthony Brown. So, yeah. I'd have to say that, yes, I would agree.
I think 5 and 6 are pretty much academic. The Bengals are winning the AFC North.
Yeah.
They're going to handle business there. For me,
Patrick come back to do so, though. Still behind Baltimore.
Yeah. For me, Patrick Mahomes is still the league MVP. I know Jalen Hurts has been what Jalen Hurts has been. Mahomes is the MVP for my money.
Yeah. It wouldn't even be Jalen Hurts, I think, in this, where I would look at as far as the future of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's definitely in it. I think for MVP, the only person now, I believe, to give Mahomes a run for his money is Burrow. Because Allen's thrown a lot of interceptions. He's in the mix, too, so this isn't a knock on anybody. But
Tua took himself out the race yesterday.
Yeah, and Burrow's had to do this without Jamar Chase. And for a couple weeks without Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. And they've still been, I think, when you look at, I don't know, since week something, they're like the number one offense in the league. So I think that, yeah, I mean, I would agree it's still Mahomes. And we just talked about the road that they have ahead of them. I would say the best bet to give him a run would be Burrow.
7, 8, 9. You got number 7. Mike White is the guy for the Jets. Despite the fact that they lost yesterday to the Vikings.
Yeah.
I like what Mike White brings them.
Did you hear what, they're all saying? Garrett Wilson.
They like playing for that dude.
Yeah, they do.
They like playing for that dude, which is huge to have that in that locker room after everything they've been through with Zach Wilson so far. Vegas and the Lions are going to be tough down the stretch. Quiet as it's kept. Detroit rolling. The fighting body kneecaps of Detroit. They beat the brakes off of, Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. That whole thing is a mess down in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence now.
Aye.
And then Vegas, as much as I can't stand Josh McDaniels, they're playing some good football right now. So it's going to be interesting to see down the last, 5 weeks of the season how things shake out as we get toward the NFL playoffs.